This video essay will discuss the function of production design and what role it plays in creating a film. Essentially, production design is designing the film, that is, everything visible on screen except for the performance. For example, sets, locations, props, costumes, and decor. Thus, a production designer is in charge of the visual aesthetics of the film in order to reveal the world of the narrative. But what is design? Design is so much more in depth than what we glance at screen. Design determines and expresses the personhood of the characters or gives substance to their actions, according to Affron and Affron. For example, David Gropman explained in an interview with Vanity Fair that for Life of Pi, he and the design team increased the distressed look of the boat as well as increased the amount of scratches made by the tiger in order to reflect the passing of time, which gave substance to the action. Another interview Vanity Fair gave was with Janie, Bryant, the costume designer for the TV series Mad Men, who chose to keep one element constant when dressing the character of Don Draper so that the psychology behind the character is reflected and rooted in his clothing choice. While the time period moves along and fashion develops from the 1960s into the 1970s, Don's colour scheme stays the same. This is because the grey suits he consistently wears are there to represent both his humble beginnings as well as represent an armour. Felipe Stark spoke at TED in 2007 where he made some points that coincide with Affron and Affron's statement that design determines and expresses the personhood of the characters or gives substance to their actions. Felipe Stark said, "I try not to make the object for the object, but for the result." This quote relates perfectly to production design, as every visual detail we see is to create an effect, that being the individual story of the characters and the world that they live in. He elaborates saying, "If we take a toothbrush, I do not think about the toothbrush, but instead, what is the life of the owner, and in what society does the guy live?" This shows a more in-depth thinking, as he does not think about just the object, but about the person who will use the object. This seamlessly reflects what production design is about, as the elements that are placed in a scene reflect the characters within it, as well as the context. According to Affron and Affron, there are 4 levels of design intensity, meaning the degree to which design is particularly visible. The first one is denotation. This is where design creates the world of the film with elements of realism, or rather, a reality effect. For example, in Life of Pi, although they rebuilt a replica of the Piscine Molitor pool, they added the Eiffel Tower in the background to emphasize the location with CGI. You cannot actually see the Eiffel Tower from the original location, thus, the reality effect. The second is punctuation. This is when the design displays itself slightly through expression of tone, place, and mood, as these center on the specificity of the plot. For example, in The Martian, the design was drawn from careful research such as real images of Mars, but then are textualized with color and tones to convey a place and mood. For instance, the planet's blatant starkness mirrors the loneliness of Matt Damon's character. Even the orange tones in both his spacesuit, vehicle, and the sand blend together as if reflecting the difficulty of retrieving him from the planet. Third on the list is embellishment, which means the design makes itself apparent without parting completely from the denotive. It elevates and adds. The Great Gatsby is a perfect example of this. Within the movie, the cars seem faster, colours are brighter, the costumes are more outlandish. This is particularly noticeable when we are introduced to the Gatsby party scene, where everything is bigger, bolder, and more extravagant to make you understand how enormously wealthy the people are. And the last is artifice, where the designer actually creates the world, a stylized fiction effect, which is primary focus of the narrative. We have seen this in Avatar, where holograms are used amongst many other futuristic and technological imaginings. Other components to consider when designing is the period, place, and problem, as these help to shape the story's world. Orlando's production design is an obvious example of conveying various periods of time. We can see the contrasting classes of the 2 characters through costume design. While Tilda Swinton's character wears a Victorian evening gown as a reflection of her higher status, Billy Zane's clothing reflects the working class. Note also that both characters wear green, which could also reflect money in reference to their class, with Tilda's dress being a royal sheen green and Zane's being a duller matte olive green. To summarise, production design is everything visible on screen, using visual aesthetics to reveal the world, the characters, and the story as an integral part of filmmaking.